JB here, May 16th, 2024. Talk about the markets, some of the names I'm in, some I'm looking at, and go from there. Get right into the S&P, the SPY, up 9 of the past 10 sessions. Big rally yesterday on that somewhat cooler than expected CPI number. We also, people didn't see, I guess the retail sales number came out at the same time, and that was much lower than expectations. So, I said it yesterday, you couple that with the GDP number that we had, the most recent job data we had last Friday, and it kind of just sets the stage for the Fed to have at least a better situation to cut rates than we had a month or two last month, even the month before that when we started getting the hotter than expected numbers. So I think that bodes well. I mean, the thing is, we're at all-time highs here. Where the SPY's over its upper Bollinger Band. 529.31 is the upper Bollinger Band. We closed at 529.78. So maybe some chop here the next day or two. And then I always say new highs typically beget new highs. So it's a lot easier once we break through that sky, once we break through the clouds, it's a lot easier to move to the upside. So do we get to 540, 545 on the SPY? I would not rule that out. And then start to look for some opportunities to play a little bit of a pullback. So that's kind of my thoughts there. Take a look at some of the names. So I added Adobe calls. I mean, here's a stock front and center in the AI theme, I guess you would call it. Some earnings misses in March. Well, it had the big pullback in middle of February from 620 all the way down to 540. Moved back up to 580, and then it had that big, well, a little disappointment on earnings. But from 560, 580, all the way down under $500. Kind of seems to have been trying to find a bottom. Looks like it found it at the start of May. A little bounce, pull back a little bit, and then yesterday we start to move to the upside. I think it trades back over $500 in the coming days. I mean, it's a great story. I talk about some of these names that they're not going away. Adobe will be a $600, $700, $800 stock in the coming years, but it's going to have some of these blips. So got some calls. If it breaks over 500, I'll look for some later dated strikes as well to play for the move to the upside. Areas I'm watching: 497.74. That's the 50-day moving average. Would be nice to get that broken today. And then, I say 540 as a call me crazy, but I think it can get over 540 in a couple of weeks, maybe 3-4 weeks. 200-day moving average 540. So that's Adobe. Dell. I mean, I've been talking about Dell for quite some time now, waiting for the big breakout. And then sure enough, Morgan Stanley comes out with an upgrade yesterday morning. Stock rallies nearly 11%. And then there's catalysts on the horizon. They have their event in Vegas, I guess a 3-day event. Then they also have earnings on May 30th. It's tough to chase. I had the 145s. Thankfully, was able to. They came back to life. I got locked some profits. I would love to add more strikes here. I want to see how it trades here at the open. If it fades back under 149, I'll probably just wait, and then I'll use any weakness to possibly add some spec calls. Probably not for next week, but for the week after, because I think there's going to be a lot of hype this weekend. Then next week there's going to be a lot of talk about Dell, and I think the stock's going to be 160 or so, and possibly before earnings. So that's kind of the game plan there on Dell. IIPR, I haven't really talked about much since its earnings, but a nice move off that earnings move. So 105 on Tuesday. Monday. Then Tuesday, big move to the upside, and then yesterday up nearly 2.5%, over 2.5%. I think it's a foregone conclusion. It's over 120. My June strikes still aren't up 100%. So at some point, I'll look to lock some of those in for 100% when it gets to that point. I'm also going to start looking at July strikes. The thing is, and I've said this before, you got to worry about the X divvy on IIPR. I think it's a $2 divvy now. So it's one of those things where you look at the calls and they look inexpensive on a risk reward basis, and you say, wow, those strikes you would think they'd be worth a lot more. It's because before the expiration, there's going to be an X divvy, and $2 or whatever that dividend is going to come out of the stock price. So you might have the 125 calls and the stock's at 121. You say, wow, this is great risk reward. And then the next day it's going to have its X divvy and the stock's going to be at 119. And then it will start making sense for you. So at some point, probably later today, if it continues to show strength today, I'll look to get some of the July strikes, then hopefully can get some of my June strikes out for 100%. AI reports, I think it was May 29th. That one just melted to the upside. I have calls that expire tomorrow. They were green, then they're flat, then they're green. Hopefully get a nice move here today. It was just at, oh, it was close to 27 in the pre-market. I talked about this one as well. I mean, all the way up to 38 bucks back at the end of February, March on its earnings, and then sold all the way down to nearly 20 bucks on no news, no catalyst. Just that it's a divisive name. Shorts look at it and say, wow, this is a story that just should be trading substantially lower. They talk about these deals the business has and things like just they try to poke holes in the story, which some of it might be relevant, but I think it bodes well, not bodes. I think it deserves to be trading at least up near 30 bucks. So over its 50-day moving average, second day in a row, 25.49. 200-day moving average, 27.67. Those are areas I'm watching. And hopefully I can get my May strikes set out for some profits and add some June strikes in to play to encompass earnings. That's AI. Not much here to talk about in regards to Roku. I'm trying to think who was it. Netflix is getting NFL for Christmas, the Christmas games. It just seems like this trend of a la carte services getting sports deals continues, and to me that just means Roku is it just adds more credibility to their platform, because if you want to watch sports, it doesn't mean you just get your local channels anymore. You need to have your Amazon Prime, your Peacocks, your Apple Plus, now your Netflix, right? So if you want to watch all your NFL games, not as easy unless you get the NFL ticket. And even that, they black out some of your local games, but you need to have some flexibility there. So I still think it trades over 70 bucks. That move 2 days ago, thankfully, was able to get my May strikes out. It's plenty of time. I think it trades up near 70. Trupanion, thankfully locked my calls in. I was talking about how they went up to nearly 7 bucks after I locked the 27.50s in, and then sure enough, it goes all the way down to 26.41 yesterday early afternoon, just because in lockstep with some of these meme names. It's got a 40% short interest. It just kind of it's getting tied together with all those other names. But here it is this morning. Bank of America, they upgrade the stock to a buy from neutral, $49 price target up from 35. I put it on the watch list. Actually, I got to make sure I post the watch list a little bit, but it's like at some point there's going to be a sentiment change in Trupanion, and once that happens, it's gonna start to go. And I keep saying fair value, maybe it's 35.40, but if that sentiment changes, you have the short interest. The Bank of America note talks about they're kind of almost not at a tipping point, but the point where they can start where the costs start to equalize, and then they're going to be profitable. So whether that's 12 months, 18 months from now, the bear case is it's zero. So someone's wrong. Someone's gonna be wrong, but that's some of it. So if it holds here at 30 bucks, I may look to get the June 40s look interesting on a risk reward basis. Also, I don't know if it was after the close, the founder, I talked about this on my rants a couple days ago, but when Rawlings came out with his insider buy, we didn't know, well, it was an insider buy. That's the boxes he checks, or his attorney or whoever checked on the filing they sent to the SEC. But then in the footnotes, it says that he sold the shares. So some conflicting things on that Form 4, and then you have a huge short interest. So you have people who short the name say, "Oh, here we go again, Trupanion with another screw up. They're scam. The founder is a fraud. The new CEO is a fraud." So they'll throw all these things, in which they did. And I actually was a little concerned there because the wording, I'm like, well, did he sell it? But I'm like, why would he sell when he's been selling 4,000 shares every 1 to 2 weeks for years with his 10.5B1 plan, and has outlined his entire strategy on his shareholder letters, completely transparent. Why would he, after founding the company, holding the reins, and then stepping back, and then you transfer your rollover to a new leader, and then you can do an insider sale? It just didn't make sense. So anyway, he cleared that up. Nice filing after the close yesterday. So I think that bodes well. I talked about the last 2 days that I possibly would probably just step back for now, but I think, especially if it holds 30 bucks, this could be a name that starts the sentiment shift, starts, and then it trades 35, 40, 45. So that's Trupanion. I have Dell up here. I'm trying to think. iRobot, similar to Trupanion, sold off on the in sympathy with the meme names, down another 13% yesterday. I think it trades on its own merits at some point. Like I've said before, $300 million valuation. It does $900 million in revenues. They have a debt issue, but I think that's getting cleared up. They have that breakup fee that they got from Amazon. So just had some great earnings, new leadership. I not going to add anything just yet, but once it starts to show some some more strength, I'll look to get some calls there. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.